Hey, thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to give you my top 10 wrestlers of all time. Now, when I was a kid, young adulthood, all the way into my 30s, I really liked professional wrestling. Kind of fell off a few times here and there in the 90s, and of course, basically fell out of love with WWE by the time 2003, 2004 rolled around. Started watching TNA, then it turned into Impact Wrestling and stayed with that till about 2008, and then pretty much gave it up all the way. However, I got a ton of entertainment for a lot of years with professional wrestling, so I decided to do a top 10, my favorite wrestlers of all time. Now, I'm not going to include any tag teams. I'm going to do a separate video on that down the road. And I'm going to start from the very top, number one, work my way down. You know what? And most people would say there's only two guys to choose from. Who am I going to choose? Well, we got to start with Hulk Hogan. He is the GOAT. He's the top dude. He's my number one pick. The reason for it, WWE, that's the house that Hogan built. All right. Do you like WrestleMania? One of the biggest sports entertainment events of all time. Every single year, it draws huge money. Maybe not Super Bowl, but probably above the NBA Finals or the World Series. Yeah, it's right up there. And Hogan made that possible. Now, I know everyone's going to say, well, hold on. Vince McMahon took over the territories and built that whole thing up. How do you think he was able to accomplish that? Because he had the world's biggest wrestling star in Hulk Hogan. And if you don't believe me, remember, he goes to WCW. He's still Hulk Hogan, red and yellow. WCW is a middling company. He turns villain, joins the NWO, becomes the face of the NWO, and he is beating Vince McMahon's WWF for about a year and a half or more straight in the ratings. Nitro's killing him. And that's because Hogan went bad. Became a heel for the first time. I mean, he'd been a heel long before his big time WWF run. But, let's face it, most people who knew anything about Hulk Hogan, that was the first time they ever saw him go heel. And he was a fantastic heel. He was so damn good that WCW became the number one wrestling promotion in the world. So therefore, Hogan has to have my number one spot. Now let's get to the number two. Oh! Not who you thought, was it? Come on. The Undertaker has to be, he has to be number two. As soon as he donned that gimmick, all right, his very, very first time he went out on WWE television as The Undertaker, he was completely over. Completely over. Everybody bought into him. And the fact that he was able to keep that up for 25, close to 30 years as The Undertaker is insane. Now, if you can give anyone else besides Hogan and Vince McMahon credit for the WWE and where it is now, it's this guy. Above everybody else. He was the presence in the locker room that held that sucker together. This guy stayed loyal, never even thought to go to any other wrestling promotion, never threatened anything. I'm sure he made plenty of money, but he never tried to, hold up Vince McMahon for more money or anything like that. This guy, I hate to use the term company man. Maybe it's better to say loyal. He was just loyal. Therefore, Vince McMahon was loyal to him. Because this guy always put asses in seats. Now, there was a close number three. All right, so let's go ahead and get to that guy. That's right. It's Stone freaking Cold Steve Austin. It has to be Stone Cold. All right. Despite what other people may say, Stone Cold is the best on the mic ever of all time. He was always so much fun to watch and listen to. All right, he had a great entrance music. I mean, he was a heel who people loved. All right, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on in wrestling before Stone Cold Steve Austin. I can't think of any heel that people just fell in love with and then became a face because they were a heel. And then as a face, they're doing all these heel moves. All right, I mean, if he's got to cheat a little bit, flip somebody off, everything people should hate about a heel they love about Stone Cold. That's how freaking great he was. And even today, he just now had his first match in 19 years, and the crowd was popping for him like it was 20 years ago. I mean, people have not forgotten about Stone Cold. That says a crap ton. Even though his career as Stone Cold was short, the impact was just huge. I mean, monstrous. All right. Number 4. Maybe that guy you're thinking of that should have been number 1 is at number 4. Wrong. It's Goldberg. I know most wrestling fans would probably, even though if they love Goldberg, would highly disagree with that. But look, hear me out. Once upon a time, Vince McMahon had a great idea for a character, a great idea for a storyline. Unfortunately, he picked the Ultimate Warrior, and the Ultimate Warrior sucks balls. This guy, I mean, his in-ring stuff was trash. He was trash. The promo just sucked nuts. I couldn't stand anything about the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I don't know. Even when I was a kid, because I know most 5-6-year-olds at the time loved him. But, you know, I was somewhere around 8 or so when he was huge. And I just didn't care. This guy sucks. I hated him. Goldberg, however, I mean, think about it. Both the guys had these big streaks and they were just crushing people when they came in. They got to the belt really quick. Goldberg did the same thing. And no, you know, both guys were pretty green, weren't like the greatest wrestlers of all time. But Goldberg just embodied badass. And the spear with the jackhammer, great finishes. He was one of the first guys to really, you know, and maybe not the first, but as far as a huge star, one of the first huge stars to start incorporating MMA-like stuff. You know, now that's kind of everywhere. Everyone kind of has a little MMA thing they're doing. But Goldberg was the first one to really put that in. But the intro and the intro music was outstanding. It was great. Entertained the shit out of me. His matches were short and sweet. But, you know, it kind of reminded you of Mike Tyson, you know, back in the 80s. How he was just knocking people out in 30 seconds. You know, it had that kind of hype about it. And outside of Hogan and the NWO, Goldberg played a huge role in WCW getting the top spot there for a while. And even when he came back at like 50, he had a freaking outstanding run. I mean, the dude just got through having a match with Roman Reigns. I didn't see it or anything, but I was shocked that he was still doing it. I mean, the guy was just a freak athlete. And the only guy that should ever be doing a spear, okay? I mean, that's it. He is the grandfather, and that is the nastiest, sickest looking spear ever. And he's just always been one of my favorite freaking wrestlers. I turned into one of those 8-year-olds that loved the Ultimate Warrior. All right, so now we got to get to the number 5 spot. And it has to, it's only one guy it has to be. And that's The Rock. The Rock cannot fall further than number 5. And yeah, he was the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. And, you know, he lived up to it. I mean, God bless him. The man actually lived up to it. Now, when he first started at Rocky Maivia, I rolled my eyes and was like, God, this dude, the pineapple haircut, whatever, horrible. But, you know, a couple years later, this guy is a badass. This guy, you know, he went from a great heel. He had a good run as a heel, and the people loved him so much, you know, just like Stone Cold, he became the face. And I don't know anybody who can sell moves like The Rock and just make it look awesome. And the match he had with Hogan, I think it was, WrestleMania 13, 18, somewhere in there, I don't know. But him and Hogan was badass. I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite match ever to watch live, with the crowd that's supposed to be behind the face, which is The Rock, and against Hogan, which was the heel. It got flipped. That freaking Canada crowd just said, no, we love Hollywood Hogan. And this dude put on a hell of a match, really sold for Hulk Hogan, and he was hurt, he was old, there's not a whole lot he can do, but they had a great match together. And even Hogan says, hey, this is the best dude I've ever been with. And he has done matches with everybody. Hogan's been in the damn business forever. Like I said, did matches with all these legends that said The Rock was the best guy he'd ever been in the ring with. That counts for a hell of a lot with me. And here we go, number 6. And finally, woo, we got Ric Flair. And a lot of people will say, best promo ever. I say, next to Steve Austin, he's the second best promo ever. But it's close. I'll tell you it's close. And one hell of a long run this guy had. I mean, my God. I mean, he was on TV forever. Now, there's a lot of stuff way back in the early 80s of Ric Flair that I missed. I was aware of him. I knew who he was. All right, but I was watching WWF. I was watching Hulk Hogan. I was watching what was really popping. Then Ric Flair comes to the WWF and didn't even get to wrestle Hulk Hogan. I mean, it's the most dumbass thing ever. But then once the NWO popped off, I went and started watching WCW. There Ric Flair was. And you know what? He is great. I mean, a lot of people have him number 1, or at least say, it's him and Hogan 1 and 2, depending on where you want to put him. I put him at 6. There's just guys that entertained me a hell of a lot more than Ric Flair did. A lot of what I got with Ric Flair, I love the figure 4 leg lock. I love the promos. I love the entrance and the entrance music. It's one of the best ever, most iconic ever. But outside of the knife edge chop, what are you getting with Ric Flair? You say, oh, he's telling this story and all that. Well, there's a lot of parts of his matches that he can sell. You talk about The Rock selling, the Ric Flair can sell some shit, flipping over the damn turnbuckle. All of a sudden, he's bleeding like a stuck pig. That freaking backdrop. The backdrop's legendary, right? How he never lands flush. It's always to the side a little bit. But it's just for me, look, I still got him number 6 all time, okay? Which is insane with how many wrestlers there have been in the history of wrestling. Now, this series, my top 10, it's only going to go back to my childhood, what I saw, what I loved, what entertained me. I didn't see guys back in the 40s. I'm only 44. Ric Flair, freaking great, deserves to be in anybody's top 10. Now, most people have him higher in 6, but that's just a taste thing. That's what I like. But he is number 6, so get off my ass. At 7 is Bret Hart. Yes, he probably in ring was one of the most entertaining guys ever because he made the shit look real. You're like, oh my God, I think you really killed that guy. He was brutal. People don't think of, this dude made shit look rough, man. When he hit a guy, kick a guy, all that stuff didn't, when Stone Cold was like stomping on a guy, mostly he's catching air. No, when Bret Hart put boots to somebody, it looked like he's really kicking the crap out of this guy. Looked like he didn't give a shit. Really, that's just one of the things to love about Bret Hart. He took it seriously. Now, his time in the WCW wasn't great. Got derailed by injury. And now he bitches about everybody. He shits on Triple H. He shits on, Goldberg. He shits on Hogan. He shits on everybody. Which some of that's kind of fun. Some of the stuff he says I think is true. Some of it I don't care if it's true or not because I like the person he's talking about anyway. But I got to give the man a ton of respect. When I was a kid in the early 90s watching WWE, I loved Bret Hart, dude. The excellence of execution was real. At 8, I had to go with Sting. I didn't really like the early Sting. That's one of the things that really turned me off of WCW back in the early 90s. I did not like the bright face paint and the flat top and all that kind of bullshit. This is the Sting I fell in love with, the Crow Sting. He actually was really good on the mic. This one, he had some funny ass comebacks. I remember, I can't remember if it was Vampiro or Raven, but he's like backstage fighting the guy, and there's some kind of like bird cage, and he grabs it and he's like, hey Raven, your first cage match, and just slaps him right over the head with it. Dude, I was rolling. Was it the Death Valley drop was nasty. I like this, the Stinger Splash in the corner looked awesome. His entrance was great. You know, dude, this guy, I just liked the guy. He was just, and I'm not big on the guys with face paint and all that, but his shit worked. Once he dropped all the stupid colors of the rainbow stuff and went to this dark side, I really enjoyed the hell out of Sting. And he's in my top 10, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Number 9, and I know this is not on a lot of people's list. I don't give a shit. Scott Steiner, pound for pound, is the best villain in wrestling. I mean, at least he used to be. He was the best villain in wrestling, biggest asshole, and he was a little off the rails in real life, and a lot of people don't talk about it. But he was actually really good on the mic. He was funny. He could act. He could be serious. He could act like an asshole, and when he hit you, it looked like it hurt like a bitch. The Steiner recliner was kind of trash. I'll say that. But even when he got older, he can still hit that. It's not a Hurricane Rana. He got pissed off when people called it a Hurricane Rana. Whatever it is, a Steiner line, Steiner Karana, whatever the hell it's supposed to be called, where he basically puts someone on the top rope and does that badass, flip thing. Anyway, that was a freaking great move. This guy was a legit great wrestler. And even though a lot of people didn't like him, I love the entrance music, the chainmail, all that shit. Just a great villain, and I love great villains. And finally, number 10, I got to give it up to him. I cannot believe I got him this high on the list, but Kurt freaking Angle. Such a dude. If you don't have this guy in your top 10, you're nuts. Because I don't know if he's underrated or not, but it seems like when people are talking about like the greatest of all time, and the people, if you watch like shoot interviews and all this shit, no one's ever talking about Kurt Angle. They're talking about everybody else. Maybe because there wasn't a shit ton of drama with Kurt Angle, outside of he got kind of sideways with Vince McMahon and left the WWE. But he, would come back and make a big impact, but, no pun intended. But this dude was an insanely great villain. Insanely great. Can be a dork. He could turn around and be this great face. And people would just eat him up and love him. So you can either have him hating his ass or loving his ass. And almost to equal parts. I mean, it was really impressive. And just how, the personality that he was just talented as shit, man. And then the ring stuff looked great. Now, I don't know about the ankle lock. I don't know how real that is or whatever. But he's so freaking good in the ring, you buy it. Even though you're like, what? How is that going to do anything? Why can't the guy just flip over? Just, But he was just so freaking good and realistic looking in the ring. He was like a Bret Hart, but an even better athlete. And an even better personality. Because he could be funny. He could make me laugh like a son of a bitch. And then, a little bit later, he'll turn things on his head and he'll just get you jacked up rooting for him, and then he'll turn it again and you'll just hate the son of a bitch. It's insane what this guy can do. You got to give WWE a ton of credit for finding him and then pushing his ass, because he deserved every push he ever got. This dude was fantastic. Well, that was my top 10, but I figure if you held on this long and watched the whole all 10, I'll go ahead and give you my 20. How's that? Let's get into 20. At number 11 is Andre the Giant. Now, a lot of people say, look, man, he's got to be number 1 or in the top 5 or something like that. The thing is, I didn't start watching Andre, until he was already an old man and kind of broken down. I mean, I loved him in Princess Bride. I know damn well the importance of Andre the Giant. And look, the legend and all that stuff, he still had me in awe as a kid, even though he was already a broken down old man by then. So if you ask me, it is beyond, respectful to put him at number 11, just outside the top 10, just because I wasn't old enough to see him in the 70s. I just wasn't. And that was really his heyday. Diamond Dallas Page. Love Diamond Dallas Page. He's got an outstanding, great story. And not just because he saved Jake the Snake Roberts and he saved Scott Hall, but this dude didn't start going until he was 30 years old. You know, and a lot of people said, dude, you're too old to start this crap. He got a little encouragement from the guys like Jake the Snake. It just became just a fantastic wrestler. I love the Diamond Cutter. I know Randy Orton has kind of used that for his own stuff, but I mean, he was the originator of that move, and I really enjoy. I enjoyed a lot of his moves. He was very smooth in the ring, you know, and had a great personality. He's good on the mic. Some of it was a little cringy, you know, but you know, for the most part, dude, I rooted hard for Diamond Dallas Page. He was a fantastic face. At number 13, you gotta go with the Macho Man. Woo, yeah, love this dude. Love it when he got all quiet and talking about the madness, and then he had to get it. I love all the crap. I love the Slim Jim commercials. I love the fact he talked like that in real life. Like he never stopped being Macho Man. He was 24/7. His whole life was kayfabe, man. I mean, he was just fun to watch. You know, he was never the biggest guy, never the strongest guy, never the most, you know, cut up dude. But man, I just had a good time watching him, and it seemed like he can work with just about anybody. And the elbow from the top rope, it's no one else should ever do that. There's a few people that have, you know, and I just kind of, you know, it's not as good as Macho's. He got a little more air, or he got a little more distance. It just seemed that way to me. And then you got to go with Dude Love, Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack. Now look, I didn't know much about him in his WCW days, but you talk about taking bumps. This dude has taken all of them. And apparently one of the nicest and kindest men to ever grace a wrestling ring or a wrestling locker room. You could tell he didn't take himself overtly seriously, but he'll just get into a character too. Just unreal. Unreal. And a guy that just wasn't like, he wasn't out there just, you know, with a freaking body. You know, he looked like a guy who would come out and fix your AC system. All right? But you could throw him off a 20-foot cage and somehow he'll survive and come back for more. Mick Foley's awesome. At number 15, and people give this guy shit. I mean, I've heard people say, well, he was never a superstar. He was just a guy who worked with the superstar. This guy was just one of the best villains to ever go into a ring. You know, and then he marries Vince McMahon's daughter in real life. They use that in the show as an angle, you know, very smartly. And Vince McMahon being the ultimate heel, this guy's right there with him. And I'm sorry, but his in-ring work is fantastic. He looks good at everything he does. You know, even the pedigree looks like a decent move, even though it's like, you know, it's not one of those like high impact, whatever. But the guy had a great entrance. I'm sorry, you got Motorhead to personalize a song for your entrance. That's some pretty big time shit, man. This is one of my favorite entrances of all time. And it's just as simple as spitting water up in the air and having a light come down. But he looked like a badass. And people say, well, you know, he got in, you know, he would bury other guys just to make himself look better. But I mean, good grief, man. You can think about it if you're Vince McMahon. You can always give Triple H the belt, right? And you will believe he's a champion. He looks like a champion. Whether he's a heel or once in a while when he's a face, he looks like a freaking champion. But you can always take the belt off of him. He will, because that's the thing that blows my mind with people shitting all over Triple H. He had matches with The Rock. He had matches with The Undertaker. He had matches with Stone Cold. He had matches with Kurt Angle. All four of them, he is the villain. He's the heel. And he's making those guys look like $1 million. You know what kind of talent it takes and to have your own persona, your own aura in order to put over those kind of guys at that high of a level? That's why those guys got to such a huge level. They had one of the greatest heels of all time, all right, that helped get them over. Triple H is an unsung hero of the 90s, of those Monday Night Wars. It's one of the reasons it's the greatest era of professional wrestling. Is because you got a guy like that willing to sacrifice. He didn't get the kind of love The Rock got. He didn't get the kind of love Stone Cold Steve Austin got. He damn sure didn't get the kind of love The Undertaker got. All right, he's beneath those guys, or even Kurt Angle. But I'll tell you what, man, he helped push all of them up. I'm not saying he was Atlas with the world on his shoulders or anything like that, but, and I know he got plenty of TV time, all that kind of shit. But this guy put over a lot of people and made them bigger than they otherwise would be. Because I'm like, come on. You think the Brooklyn Brawler is going to put over Stone Cold? No, you got to have a foil like Triple H. Same thing with The Rock. I mean, all those guys were able to bounce off each other. But he was the constant. He was the constant guy pushing, Kurt Angle, making him look good, making everybody look good. If I revisited this thing again, it was just so freaking hard. But if I did, I might replace Scott Steiner with him at number 9. Because I think that much of this guy and what he's accomplished and what he helped other guys around him accomplish. At 16, come on. It's the whole fucking show, Rob Van Dam. This guy was like one of the most exciting guys I've ever seen. He does look a little bit like Sean Claude, and he does the splits like Sean Claude. He has a lot of the same kind of mannerisms and moves, and he comes across as kind of a stoner guy, which is hilarious. His punches just look stupid, but the kicks, all the big air that he got, the rolling thunder, all that stuff was freaking awesome. Love me some Rob Van Dam. At number 17, I had to put Kevin Nash high up here. I couldn't put him in my top 10. A lot of people say as a booker he was kind of shitty, but I don't think he was. I don't think he, a lot of people say, well, he didn't really give a damn. Well, I don't think he was given a whole lot of reasons at a lot of times to give a damn. He was smart enough to know, look, I'm going to make my money. I'm going to do, he was very business savvy. It's not his fault. He worked for people that just didn't get it. He wasn't trying to leave WWF back in the day, but if they weren't going to pay him, he's going to go someplace that was going to pay him. And then when he gets there, if they're not going to do the right thing, they don't expect him to do the right thing. He would have made a perfect union steward. I'll tell you that freaking much. But look, I always enjoyed him. Whether he's coming out to the NWO theme, whether he's coming out to the Wolfpack theme, which to me, that's his intro. That's his intro music. That was the best. He had great matches, man. I enjoyed his stuff with Goldberg. There's a triple threat match with him, Goldberg, and Bam Bam Bigelow. And these guys looked like they were just beating the hell out of each other. They were selling hard for each other. Huge bumps. I mean, people talk about, well, Goldberg didn't sell. Bullshit. I mean, Bam Bam hit him with this shoulder block. And Goldberg went boom instantly on his back. Looked like, I thought he might have got a concussion. Maybe whiplash or, my God, dude. But, it was just one of the most brutal looking matches I've ever seen. He's fantastic on the mic. He's got a great personality. He could be hilarious. But he can also seem like someone who's really pissed off and motivated. A fantastic big man. One of the best big men ever. At number 18, Goldust. All right, now, Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, whatever he's going by in AEW. Now, when he first came out, when Goldust first hit, I was a little skeptical. I didn't know what the hell to think of this guy. But the one thing that, even as a kid, as a teenager, I was like, whoa, this dude has an awesome move set. This dude he's one of the smoothest guys you'll ever see in the ring. Just the shit he does. I mean, not just and all that kind. I'm talking about the actual, how he moves, right? How he fights in the ring is so unique. And that's about the best, the best word I can give him is smooth. It was freaking smooth. He's freaking awesome to watch. Even still in AEW, he looks great. I tell you the truth, I wish they would have done a hell of a lot more with Goldust in WWE. I mean, this guy should have, I don't know about a championship, but maybe an Intercontinental Championship. And maybe I don't know if he ever got one or not, but he should have had a long extended run. This dude was fun to freaking watch. Great intro. really sunk his teeth into that character at 19. Abyss, and this is one of the reasons why I got to be such a TNA fan in like the mid to late 2000s. Abyss was freaking awesome. Now you might say, well, hold on, he kind of looks like just a gigantic Mankind. Yeah, he kind of does look like a gigantic Mankind, except he was a far better athlete than Mick Foley. Now, he didn't have the kind of chops on the mic like Mick Foley did. He didn't have that kind of personality that came through. But as a Abyss, the gimmick, and then him in the ring, it just looks so freaking cool. And he really ate it up, and he really became that character. You really believed Abyss was a weird freaking dude. And the crazy thing is, wasn't just like, he wasn't the same kind of monster like the Undertaker, who was like, oh, fear, right? Or Kane, everyone seemed to be scared to death of, or whatever. He didn't come across like that. People actually liked him. It was more like Frankenstein's monster, right? That was the beauty of the guy. But that black hole slam just looks sick. I love this finisher. Great finisher. Love this guy. Very underrated. And speaking of underrated, I got to go number 20. I had to put Booker T in my top 20. The Spinneroonie was cool. Love the Spinneroonie. Love the scissor kick finish. God, what a great... It just looked fantastic. Because Booker was a freaking freak of an athlete, man. He can catch some air and come down with it. Now, his King Booker stuff in WWE, I didn't like what they did with a lot of the old WCW guys when they brought them over, after WCW went out of business. I didn't really like what WWE did with a lot of them. King Booker was funny. He did a lot of funny stuff. I give him full credit because he dove right into it. He actually became a really good heel because he was a face for a long time in WCW and was believable, was world champ, had outstanding matches with Scott Steiner. I think he had a whole series of matches with Chris Benoit that were just, badass. I mean, this guy was really, really good. And you could talk about, WCW and the crap they, how things got ran or bad booking or whatever the hell. But they really gave Booker T a real shot and an opportunity, and he took off with it and made the most of it. And they pushed him and they stuck with him through a nice long run in WCW. Booker T was one of their main eventers, one of their top guys when that thing went out of business. And it wasn't because of him, because that's a big reason I was such a WCW fan, because I love Booker T. But I really liked him in WCW. He was a serious character. There wasn't a lot of this joking bullshit going on. He had great matches all the time, and he was just fun to watch. Absolute fun to watch. All right, that's my top 20. And I doubt there's anybody still watching this video. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do 30. Top 30. And I'm not going to do all the pictures and stuff. I don't feel like it. So, number 21, Rey Mysterio Jr., one of the best small guys ever. Best luchador I've ever seen. Fantastic. 22, Kane. Very impressive that this guy could basically be the Red Undertaker and sell it and have you believe it. I love Kane. Kane's freaking great. 23, Chris Jericho. I loved him as a Lionheart Chris Jericho in WCW, but you know what? His WWE stuff was pretty damn good too. One of the things I miss though in WCW when he put his foot on someone's chest for a early pinfall, is go, yeah! He might get a 1 or 2 count, but it was hilarious. I love Chris Jericho. 24, Eddie Guerrero. His entrance music in WCW was badass. I loved it better than the WWE stuff. However, WWE saw the talent that dude had and used him way more effectively than WCW ever thought about doing, which was criminal. But God bless Eddie Guerrero. Great, great wrestler. At 25, Shawn Michaels. And you know what? A lot of people are like, how is this dude not in your top 10? How? I was never a big Shawn Michaels guy. Now, the super kick, the sweet chin music looked good. And I know he had good matches. I know he was a fantastic wrestler, a good worker, and all that kind of stuff. he was just never my cup of tea. I was always, okay, here's Shawn Michaels again. He was, you know, if he was wrestling Bret Hart, I'd watch it because I like Bret Hart, not because I like Shawn Michaels. You know, it was like that for regardless of who he was wrestling. I just, I just wasn't a fan. But I do respect him, and I know how good he was. So I got him at 25, but it's personal taste. That's as high as I can get him. 26, Scott Hall. I mean, God bless Scott Hall. Rest in peace. A genius guy. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay off the substances, but a genius wrestling mind. 27, Roddy Piper. Probably the 80s version of Stone Cold, if you will. Just a guy who's a heel that people kind of tend to love and great on the mic. And the first guy I ever see anyone choke someone with wrist tape. Throw him over the top rope and kind of hang him there. I'm sure it was done before. Everything in wrestling was done before. But that's the first time I saw it. I was like, whoa, this guy's kind of nuts. And he's wearing a dress. Okay, it's a kilt. But I was a kid. I didn't know. AJ Styles. And I watched, this is almost basically exclusive off of the TNA Impact stuff. I didn't see any of his WWE stuff, his run. I know he had a long, great run there, and he's got a lot of fans there. He was, kind of like Rob Van Dam for TNA, man. He was just really fun as hell to watch. Had some great matches, and just based off of that, I got him in my top 30. Maybe if I kept watching it, I'd have him higher up. Who knows? At 29, The Big Show. Look, I loved him as the Giant in WCW. WWE, once in a while, they would use him right, but The Big Show should have been a bigger deal in WWE. They just, as I said, it seemed like everybody got over on The Big Show. They would use him to get somebody else a little higher up the card. All right, because The Big Show was just huge. He wasn't going anywhere. He was always going to make a good amount of money and be with the company for a long time. So they would use him to build up people like Brock Lesnar or whoever they needed to build up. And then they would let him go in, Royal Rumble or whatever, and just destroy people. But he should have been destroying people the whole damn time. He was, a guy that freaking huge and that was that athletic. And at number 30, Jake the Snake Roberts. Great movement in the ring. I loved all that stuff. I loved his entrance. I loved the snake stuff. We just didn't get it long enough. He got really bad into the alcohol and the dope, and then in the early 90s, towards mid 90s, I think it was, he was wearing the full bodysuit because he looked like dog crap. Apparently, he was out of shape. And and for me as a kid, I just remember seeing that and going, this ain't Jake the Snake that I know. So I have to knock him down a few pegs. But, hey, another guy, he had a great voice, great on the mic, great in-ring skill set. The whole nine, I just didn't get it long enough to put him any higher. Now, there's some guys I left off just because I didn't really see them. I didn't get a chance to be really entertained by them. Guys like Dusty Rhodes, the Freebirds, Terry Funk, the Von Erichs, even though I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, I outside of the Texas Tornado, I only got to see him a little bit. Harley Race, Sabu, Superstar Billy Graham, all those type of guys aren't on my list because I didn't see them. I know Sabu, he was like an ECW for a little, and I only saw like a match or two. I liked what I saw. I just didn't get to see enough of it. Of course, there are newer guys that are missing. All the new guys. Like, I don't watch wrestling anymore, so none of those guys are on this list, and they don't have a shot in hell of ever getting on it. But there's some other guys who came out, started, a good long ways away now, like mid-2000s, that I didn't see because I stopped watching WWE. Guys like John Cena, Randy Orton. Brock Lesnar, I only caught a few matches. I saw a lot more of him in the UFC than I did in the WWE. CM Punk, I've never seen a CM Punk match. Batista, never seen a Batista match. And there's other guys that are missing that there's just no way in hell I would put him on the list because I just didn't like him. Okay, let's start with the Ultimate Warrior. He was trash. All right, his promos were trash. A lot of people love his intro, the music, and him running down. I didn't care about any of it when I was a kid. I don't care about any of it now. I don't care that he's dead. It doesn't make me feel any differently about the freaking Ultimate Warrior. Edge, don't give a shit about Edge. The only thing I can really say about Edge is he's got a sorry ass spear. I wish he'd never have done it. But I just don't care about Edge. Never did. Or Christian for that matter. Matt Hardy, I can give a shit about Matt Hardy. Nothing he's ever done, especially in his single stuff, I don't care about. Jeff Hardy, to me, is so over freaking rated. It's not funny. He jumps off of stuff. Well, how many times have we seen that? I've seen plenty of luchadors do stuff that look way more exciting and way better than Jeff Hardy. I was never a huge Jeff Hardy fan. Don't care about either Hardy Boy. The Iron Sheik, I know he's this legendary guy, Hall of Famer. I saw matches when I was a kid, against Hogan, against a few other guys. And I got to tell you, he bored the shit out of me. I didn't care. He had the stupid boots on. Who cares? And the same thing with Sergeant Slaughter. The Cobra Clutch looked kind of cool outside of that. I was a big G.I. Joe fan as a kid, and I loved Sergeant Slaughter in the G.I. Joe cartoon. I thought he was cool. But in the wrestling ring, so freaking disappointing. So, screw you. Davey Boy Smith. Why isn't Davey Boy somewhere on the list? Well, there was like one match I really liked with him, and he had this like classic match with Bret Hart. Outside of that, that's the best I ever saw him. The rest of the shit it's boring. He had a couple of Royal Rumbles that were cool, but outside of that, man, I don't care about Davey Boy. What was that? The running power slam? That was this thing. Didn't care about it when I was a kid. Don't care about it now. And the last one that wasn't on the list is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Legendary guy, but he's nowhere on. He wouldn't make my top 50. None of these guys would make any list at all. Maybe Brutus, maybe top 70 or so. I don't know. But definitely not even top 50. Here's some guys that would make my top 50. I'm going to call my honorable mention. That's right. The video's still going. We're still going. But my honorable mention, guys. Junkyard Dog. Love the Junkyard Dog. He was cool. That's a cool-ass name. Rhino. The only guy that's allowed to do the spear outside of Goldberg, to me. The only guy. That's because he calls it a gore. And I loved it when Paul Heyman would gore! Gore! It was freaking awesome. Love Rhino. Love Rhino. Sid Vicious needs a little bit more love. Sid Vicious had a cool-ass look. Raven. Love Raven's flock. Love Raven. Even Flow DDT. I was sold on Raven. Scott Norton. Just terribly underrated big guy. Just huge, broad chest. He'd slap the dog shit out of somebody. Not a knife-edge chop. Just like the Big Show. Pow! Right on top. God, it looked so freaking painful, and I'm sure it was. This guy had just all power set and looked cool as hell doing it. Bam Bam Bigelow, criminally underrated. Big Boss Man underrated. Love the Big Boss Man. Kidman, Jeff Jarrett, Mortis. You talk about some crazy ass moves this guy could do in the ring. Just very smart wrestler and criminally. And he was also Canyon, if you remember Canyon. That dude was awesome. Honky Tonk Man, the first guy to really start beaming people over the head with a guitar. Had me rolling when I was a kid. This freaking like Elvis impersonator guy. Just cracking people. And he was good on the mic. Love Honky Tonk Man. Lex Luger. People give Lex Luger crap. I like Lex Luger. He was alright with me. Vampiro, love me some Vampiro. His ICP stuff is great. Jerry Lynn, great matches with freaking Rob Van Dam. Just classic matches. The Ravishing Rick Rude. Dude, one of the nastiest looking finishers ever. That Rude Awakening. This looked like he was breaking someone's neck. That was awesome. And you're going to laugh, but Doink the Clown. The evil little bastard clown. Now, I heard the guy that played Doink, I think it was Matt Bourne or something like that. Apparently he's a big freaking dumbass jerk off, but I really liked him as Doink the Clown, dude. I I like the evil clown thing. I thought that was very smart. Laparca was fantastic. I love the whole full bodysuit. That was cool. New Jack. I mean, he's crazy, but this dude would jump off his shit. He he was literally insane. I'm just saying, everyone knows it. Speaking of insane, Sandman. Sandman was pretty cool too. I went to work with that kendo stick. Badass. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Loved me some Hacksaw Jim Duggan when I was a kid. Loved the dude. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. Fantastic villain. The $1 Million Dream. That was such a great name for a sleeper hold, man. But I loved him. Great laugh too. Outstanding character. Hillbilly Jim. Just have a soft spot in my heart for old Hillbilly Jim. Samoa Joe. God, the dude had great. Not the typical body, but fantastic moveset. Love Samoa Joe. William Regal. Hugely underrated. What was that? European uppercut? Oh, that shit looked nasty. It just looked good, man. Everything that guy did looked smooth and looked good. And I have to say, the Crippler, Chris Benoit. He has to be on my honorable mentions. If not for the way he went out, I mean, he would be probably in my top 20. He was that freaking good, y'all. He was that damn good. Pretty good on the mic. Not the best, but not bad. One of the best submission holds ever. And it looked painful, right? Just that, people's neck looked like it's going to have to break off. But from everything that I know about what happened with his situation, it just seems like the CTE screwed him up bad. And he suffered from it for a long time. You know, they examined his brain. He was definitely screwed up. But apparently it went one flying headbutt from the top rope too many and did him in, and unfortunately cost his whole family their lives too. And it's a horrible, horrible situation. But I really don't think it was that man's fault. I think he was suffering some serious brain trauma, and really he was, and then snapped, and he wasn't trying to snap, because everyone said great husband, great father, the entire time. Everyone that knew him said the same damn thing. And for him to do that, something went wrong that wasn't what he was wanting to do. It was something that his brain just snapped in half, and his reality shattered, and something horrible happened. But I would be remiss, and hopefully one day people will stop. Oh my God, he's a freaking murderer, and hopefully one day some of that stigma will come off, and they'll say, "Look, horrible thing that happened, but he was actually a victim too." I think he was. I think the brain trauma is what caused a lot of that. Anyway. Appreciate the one person maybe who stuck around for this whole stupid ass video. And if you did, thank you. And if you like that crap, I got more crap coming. So, until my next crap, bye.